The annual company gala was in full swing. My boss, Marcus Webb, had just spent 5 minutes on stage singing my praises, called me the backbone of this company, said I was irreplaceable, promised me $100,000 in front of 300 people. I'd worked 80-hour weeks for 18 months to get that bonus. I'd skipped my father's bypass surgery consultation. I'd missed my girlfriend's birthday. I'd slept on the floor of my office for 43 consecutive nights when the Germany line kept crashing because someone had to be there at 3 a.m. when the diagnostics came back. The $100,000 was supposed to fix everything. The mortgage I was underwater on, MY mother's physical therapy. The ring I'd been saving for, the one Rachel had sent me a picture of last week with a little heart emoji under it. I checked my bank balance while the DJ was queuing up another terrible cover song. $3,000. Not $100,000. Not even close. I counted the zeros 3 times. Maybe I misread it. Maybe the app was glitching. Maybe there was a separate wire transfer pending, something with a different reference number that would show up tomorrow. I refreshed the screen. The number didn't change. 3,000. That wasn't even my base salary for the month. That was what you gave someone when you wanted them to know exactly how little you thought they were worth. The champagne in my glass had gone warm and flat. I put it down on a passing tray, and I remember thinking with this weird, distant clarity that my hands weren't shaking. They should have been shaking. I was 34 years old. I'd just been publicly humiliated. I just realized that my boss had used me as a prop to make himself look generous in front of investors. Everything I'd given this company was sitting in a bank account that said $3,000. But the anger didn't come yet. That's the part one still think about. When I replay that night, the anger didn't hit until later on that moment, when I felt was something colder and quieter. Something that I'd been ignoring for a long time, because ignoring it was easier. You already knew something in my head said. You knew when he started talking about team spirit instead of giving you real numbers. You knew when the bonus paperwork said discretionary and subject to final review. You just didn't want to believe it. I looked across the ballroom. Marcus had his arm around the CFO, laughing at something, his face flushed with a kind of relaxed confidence that only comes from people who've never had to make a spreadsheet stretch to cover both a mortgage and a hospital bill. He caught my eye for a second, just a second. And then he looked away. That's when the anger started. Not at the money, at the looking away. I walked over to him. The crowd parted a little, not because people sensed something coming, but because I moved differently. I'd always been the quiet one, the guy who kept his head down and delivered results. I'd never once raised my voice in 4 years. Marcus. I held up my phone. This says 3,000. We need to talk about it. He plastered on this smile, this practice smile I'd seen him use on clients who were about to walk. Cal, listen, let's grab a drink in the back. Not the best place to.
No.
Here, we're at the party. You gave the speech. Let's clear it up. The CFO started backing away, and Marcus's smile tightened. I think there was a misunderstanding that was structured as a performance bonus. First tranche. The rest comes when we hit the next milestones. You know how these things work. First tranche. I repeated. Milestones, I already hit. The machine line is running. The patents are filed. I lived in that building for 6 weeks, Marcus. I didn't see any milestones. Cal, I really think we should. So the speech was a lie? The part where you called it 100,000? That was just for show. He didn't answer. The music had shifted to something quieter, and I could feel the people around us going silent. Not everyone. There was still noise at the far end of the room. But the people close enough to hear were listening that I knew most of them. The junior engineers I'd trained. The accounting guy I'd helped when his divorce got messy. The operations manager, who'd been here since before I joined. They were all watching Marcus, too. Cal, maybe we can take this offline. There are things you don't understand about. I understand everything. I heard my voice go flat. That cold thing in my chest was spreading outward. I understand you just needed 18 more months of me solving your problems, and the bonus was the only way to keep me around. And now that the problems are solved, you're done. That's not. Did you ever intend to pay it? He looked at me. There was something in his eyes, not guilt, something else, something like calculation. He was trying to figure out how much it would cost him if this escalated. Whether I was worth more as an employee or as a loose end, what was the cheapest option for him right now? The silence stretched long enough that everyone standing near us could fill in the answer themselves. I'm not going to apologize for running a business, Marcus said finally. You're an engineer. You understand budgeting. We had a tough year. Your house in Aspen says otherwise. You need to calm down. I am calm. And that was the strange part. I'm not angry, I'm just done. You said I was irreplaceable, but you just replaced my value with a number that starts with 3. So I'll do the math for you. I'm done. We can't lose you, the CFO said, too late and too loud and from way too far away. Marcus shot him a look. Cal, let's be real for a minute. Where would you go? You're a machining specialist. There are like 5 companies in this country doing what we do. That I know people at all of them. You think anyone's hiring after this? It was a threat, the quiet kind, wrapped in concern, but a threat that I'd heard him use it on other people. I'd watched him make phone calls to competitors to make sure an ex-employee's applications all went into the no pile. He didn't just fire people. He made sure they couldn't be hired. I should have felt something. Fear, maybe. Doubt. Instead, I felt that cold thing solidify into something harder and sharper. The DJ started up another song. Nobody danced. When you announced the bonus, I said, you called me the company's future. That was in front of everyone. I'm going to remember that version of you, the one who said those words. I can't control every decision I make on stage. The speech wasn't the stage. The office is the stage. 4 years of working with you is the stage. And the only part that was real was the number on my screen. I turned and walked out. Rachel is waiting for me in the lobby. I told her to meet me after, that I'd take her somewhere nice, that we'd talk about the ring. She was wearing the dress I'd helped her pick out 2 weeks ago, the one that cost more than I'd normally spend, but I'd wanted to do something special. She looked at my face and her expression shifted from excitement to something else. Gal, don't ask yet. I need to tell you something. Rachel, I can't wait until later. It's important. I got the test results. I stopped walking. There was a bench near the coat check. I sat down without meaning to. She sat next to me, and I could smell her perfume, the expensive one she saved for special occasions. Test results. I didn't want to tell you at the party. I wanted it to be private. But I've been feeling sick for weeks, and I went to the doctor. Are you okay? Gal, imbrengen. I remember I didn't react at first. It was too much, coming right after everything else. The bonus, the fraud, the speech, the threats, and now this. We're going to be parents, she said. I know it's not perfect timing. Okay. But I thought, the bonus, we can figure things out. We have options, we just... Rachel. I held up the phone. The bonus isn't happening. I just quit. What? It was $3,000. He was never going to pay me. I walked out. She didn't say anything for a long moment. I watched her process it. The news, the timing, the shift in everything she'd been planning for the last few days. I could almost see the thoughts running behind her eyes. 3,000, she said finally. That's not even. No. But you fixed the German line. You designed half the systems they're running now. He said he'd pay me in tranches. Said I didn't understand business. Oh, Cal. She put her hand on my arm. Okay. We'll make it work. We'll figure something out. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. But I just learned in a very public way what happens when you trust people to do what they said they were going to do. And it was right there at the edge of my vision that I noticed the shadow. Not a literal shadow. Something else. A small inconsistency. A detail that didn't match. Rachel's hand had gone to her stomach the way pregnant women do, but there was something off about the timing. We'd barely had sex in the last month. She'd been tired, and I'd been working too many hours. And if she'd been feeling sick for weeks, that meant the timeline started when I was gone on the business trip. The trip where I'd called her every night and she'd been busy. The trip where she'd mentioned Marcus's name once, in a context I didn't think about at the time, because I was too exhausted to notice. Gal? She was looking at me. Yeah. You're being weird. It's okay, if you need a minute. This is a lot. Yeah, I said. It's a lot. I didn't tell her what I was thinking, not yet. Because here's the thing about that cold clarity I discovered in the ballroom. Once you have it, you start noticing things you didn't let yourself see before. And the number on my screen wasn't the only number that didn't add up. I said goodnight to Rachel, told her I needed to walk, that I needed to clear my head. She kissed my cheek and said she understood, and I stood on the sidewalk while she hailed a taxi, and I watched her go. And the moment she was gone, I opened my phone and called the only person I knew who could help me figure out the other number, the one I hadn't yet let myself count. I walked for an hour after Rachel's taxi disappeared, not because I needed to think. I was already thinking too much, but because I needed to move. Staying still felt dangerous, like something might catch up with me. The cold air helped. S.O. did the silence. I passed the bar where Marcus took clients, the coffee shop where I'd written half my patents on napkins, the hardware store where I bought the emergency parts that saved the German line from crashing in year 2. Every block of the city was a museum of my labor, and I'd just discovered the curator had been charging admission on my ticket. My phone buzzed. Rachel, did you get home okay? I typed back, walking, mid-air, talk tomorrow. She replied with a heart emoji. That was the thing about Rachel. She always knew exactly when to send the heart emoji. IT was almost too perfect. Like she'd read a manual on how to be a supportive girlfriend. The thought curdled in my stomach. I hated that I was thinking that way. We'd been together 2 years, 2 years of dinners and arguments and lazy Sunday mornings. 2 years of me believing we were building something real. And yet, it's okay if you need a minute, she'd said at the party. This is a lot. This is a lot. Not we're going to have a baby. Not I love you and we'll figure this out. Just this is a lot. As if the pregnancy was an inconvenience we were both managing. I stopped walking. There was a bench outside a closed pharmacy. I sat down and pulled up her social media. I'd never done this before, never checked her posts with suspicion. I trusted her completely, the same way I'd trusted Marcus. The last 4 weeks of her feed were careful, too careful. Photos of coffee, photos of sunsets, nothing that showed who she was with, nothing that gave away location. The kind of social media presence designed to be unreadable. I scrolled back further. 3 months ago, there was a photo from a work conference. She was in events, always traveling to hotels and convention centers. The photo showed her with a group of people, all smiling, all holding glasses of wine. She tagged 3 of them. One name caught my eye. Derek. Not a coworker. She'd never mentioned a Derek at work. I'd met her entire team at the Christmas party. Noverik. I zoomed in on the photo. Rachel was standing close to him. Not touching, but close. The kind of close where bodies lean toward each other without permission. The kind of close that says we're having a private conversation inside this public one. I'd seen that photo before. I remembered scrolling past it and thinking nothing. She was at a conference. She was networking. That was her job. Now I couldn't unsee it. I put the phone down. My hands were shaking again. But this time I let them. There was no one around to pretend for. The irony wasn't lost on me. I just watched Marcus promise me $100,000 he never intended to pay. Now I was looking at a woman who told me she was pregnant, and I was trying to figure out if the math worked. 3,000, 3 months, 3 men in a conference photo. Numbers were my language. I'd built my entire career on making them add up. And right now, none of the numbers added up. I called the only person I trusted, not with the pregnancy. That was too raw, too personal. I called him about Marcus, about the bonus, about the threat he'd made at the party. Leo picked up on the second ring. Cal, it's 1 a.m. Marcus screwed me. Okay. Leo's voice shifted from sleep to alertness in half a second. That's why I called him. He was the kind of guy who could process catastrophe before his second cup of coffee. What happened? Promised me 100,000 at the company gala. Gave me 3. I walked. Shit. You quit. Yeah. And he told me he'd make sure no one else hired me. There was a pause. I could hear Leo's brain working through the implications the same way I'd worked through the German line diagnostics, methodically, without panic. He's not wrong about the market, Leo said carefully. There's maybe 6 companies doing what you do. He's connected to all of them, but that's not the part that worries me. What worries you? Your face. You're not calling me about a legal fight. You're calling me about something else. What's the thing you're not saying? I was quiet for a long moment. Leo knew me better than anyone. He'd been there for the divorce, for the 3 years of watching my ex-wife move on with someone who had a more stable schedule and a bigger salary. He'd been there for the nights I slept on my office floor because going home felt too empty. I'm not sure Rachel's baby is mine, I said. Leo didn't gasp. He didn't do the thing people do in movies, the moral outrage. He just said, okay, what makes you think that? The timeline doesn't work. She says she's been feeling sick for weeks, but we've barely had sex in the last month, and she mentioned a name tonight, this guy Derek from a conference 3 months ago. I'd never heard of him before. You checked her socials. Of course I checked her socials. I just spent 4 years getting played by Marcus. I'm not getting played by anyone else. Has she given you any reason to distrust her before this? That was Leo's way. He asked the questions I didn't want to ask myself. He made me sit in the discomfort. No, I admitted. Before tonight, I would have said she was the most honest person I knew. She never hid her phone. She never came home late without an explanation. She was good at it, Leo said. What? Some people are just good at it. They don't leave obvious signs because they don't need to. They manage the narrative perfectly. The question is whether you want to know the truth or whether you want to stay comfortable. I want to know. My voice was harder than I expected. I'm done being comfortable. Comfortable is how you end up with $3,000 and a baby that might not be yours. Good. Then here's what you do. Get the paternity test. But don't tell her yet. Don't show your hand. You're not angry. You're not accusatory. You're just gathering information. That's what you're good at. Kel, you're a terrible liar, but you're excellent at finding out the truth. I'm going to need your help. Already there. I'll text you the name of a good lab. You can do it as early as 8 weeks, so if she's really pregnant, you've got time. And Cal. Leo, if this gets ugly. It's already ugly. You just haven't seen all the sides yet. Handle it one piece at a time. You solve the Marcus problem first, because that's the one you can control. The Rachel problem, you gather the facts before you act, but you start gathering them tonight, and I mean it, don't wait. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my apartment, rented, small, the kind of place you keep when you're saving for a down payment, and I did what Leo said. I gathered facts. I made a spreadsheet. It was stupid and obsessive, and exactly the kind of thing I did when I felt powerless. But it helped. Column A, dates Rachel had been working late in the last 3 months. Column B, dates she'd been tired and gone to bed early. Column C, dates I'd been out of town on business trips. I cross-referenced them with her social media posts, her text to me, the bits of conversation she dropped about her week. I was looking for gaps. Gaps where she'd been somewhere she didn't tell me about. Gaps where her story didn't quite connect to the digital trail she'd left behind. They were there. Not a smoking gun, not an obvious affair, but these tiny, almost invisible inconsistencies. A conference she said she'd attended that had no record of her speaking there. A networking dinner that turned out to be at a restaurant 30 miles from the conference venue. A gift she'd mentioned getting from a client that I'd never seen around the apartment. At 4 a.m., I found the text messages. They were in my phone from 3 months ago, the week I'd been at the machine line in Germany. She'd sent me a photo of her hotel room, said she missed me, said she couldn't wait until I got home. I looked at the photo again. The room was nice, but the reflection in the window showed 2 pillows, one on each side, both with indentations. I'd thought nothing of it at the time. People use hotel pillows. They sit on beds. It doesn't mean anything. Now I saw what I hadn't wanted to see before. 2 people had slept in that bed. I closed the laptop. It was almost dawn. The window showed the first sliver of light over the skyline, and I sat there in the dark, watching it spread. I'll fix this, I thought. I'll fix all of it. And when I'm done, nobody gets to tell me what I'm worth ever again. At 6 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I heard you left Marcus Webb's company. You might want to know. He's already made 3 calls this morning. He told everyone you walked out because you were dangerously unstable. That you threatened him. That you're a liability. I didn't know who sent the text. It didn't matter. Someone had my back. Or someone wanted to watch the drama unfold. Or someone was setting a trap. Regardless, the information was useful. Who is this? I typed back. No response. I stared at the phone for a long minute. This was bigger than the bonus now. Bigger than Marcus. Someone was watching. Someone was tracking Marcus's moves and reporting them to me. That meant either I had allies I didn't know about, or I was being played in a game that had more players than I'd counted on. I thought about the German machine line. Then I thought about the patents I'd filed in Marcus's name. I thought about every conversation I'd had with competitors, every casual mention of proprietary methods, every time I trusted a colleague with a piece of my process. I'd been exposed. Not just betrayed, exposed. The real damage wasn't the money Marcus took from me. It was the access I'd given him to everything I knew. And the real question wasn't what Marcus had taken. It was what he'd already sold. At 7 a.m., I called the lab Leo recommended. The woman who answered was professional, matter of fact. She explained the process, the timelines, the cost. I gave her my credit card without hesitation. Mr. Morrison, just to be clear, this is a prenatal paternity test. We need a blood sample from the mother and a cheek swab from you. If the mother isn't willing to participate, she'll participate, I said. She just doesn't know it yet. There was a pause. The woman had clearly dealt with complicated situations before. I understand. We can send you a discreet kit. You'll need a sample from her without raising suspicion. Some clients use a competitive sports event. Bruises can be explained by. I'll figure it out. Of course, sir. The results will be ready in 7 to 10 business days. I hung up and sat with the reality of what I'd just done. I was testing the paternity of my unborn child because I'd started looking at my girlfriend's photos like they were evidence. Because a number on a screen, 3,000 instead of 100,000, had made me suspicious of everything. Was I being paranoid? It was possible. Rachel had given me every reason to trust her up until tonight. Her story about the pregnancy could be exactly what she said it was. The timing could be a coincidence. The Derek I'd seen in the photo could be just a colleague she'd never mentioned because he was irrelevant. But I'd asked the question. And once you ask the question, you can't unask it. The trust is already damaged. The only choice you have left is whether to act on your suspicion or pretend you don't have it. I've been pretending for too long that I'd been pretending Marcus was a good boss. I'd been pretending my marriage to Sarah was going to get better. I'd been pretending my father's health would be fine if I just worked hard enough to pay for his treatments. Pretending was how you ended up with $3,000 and a baby that might not be yours. At 8 a.m., Rachel texted, "Can we talk tonight? I want to tell you something." I stared at the message. Something could be anything that IT could be. I've been thinking about baby names. It could be I actually can't go through with the pregnancy. It could be I need to tell you who the father really is. Sure, I typed back. Come over at 7. We'll order in. She replied, I'm so lucky to have you. You know that? I didn't answer. Because here's what I was starting to understand. The number on my phone wasn't just about Marcus Webb, that IT was a clue. A signal that everything I thought I knew about the people around me needed to be verified. And the only person I could trust now was myself. Rachel showed up at 7:03 with takeout from the Thai place I like. She'd remembered my order. Coconut curry, extra spicy, no cilantro. That was the thing about her. She remembered the small things. The things that made you feel seen. The things that kept you from noticing the bigger things you weren't supposed to see. I brought dessert too, she said, holding up a bag. Those mango sticky rice things you always get. I took the food from her. My hands were steady. That surprised me. You didn't have to do all this. I wanted to. She kissed my cheek. We need to talk, and I didn't want it to be weird. I set the food on the kitchen counter and started unpacking. Rachel sat at my small table, the one I'd inherited from my divorce, the one with the scratches from years of bad decisions. She was wearing the soft sweater I liked, the one that made her look cozy and approachable and like someone you could trust. I told you I was pregnant, she said, and you kind of shut down. I know that was a lot. And with the bonus thing and the job. It's fine. It's not fine. She leaned forward. Kel, I need to know you're okay. With all of it. You're not saying anything, and that's what you do when something's wrong. You go quiet. I handed her a plate. I'm processing. That's not the same as shutting down. Processing what exactly? The question hung there. I could have told her the truth, that I was processing the possibility that she'd been sleeping with someone else, that the baby might not be mine, that I'd spent the last 12 hours looking at her social media like evidence in a trial, that I'd already called a lab and ordered a test. Instead, I said, Marcus promised me $100,000 and gave me 3 that I built that company, that I designed the systems that made it profitable, and he looked at me like I was the problem. Like I was greedy for expecting what he promised. Rachel's face softened. He's an asshole. You always knew that. Did I? Or did I just pretend I didn't? Go. I'm not saying this to make you feel bad. I'm saying it because I'm done pretending. I pretended Marcus was a good boss. I pretended my marriage to Sarah was going to get better. I pretended my father's health was fine. And every time I pretended, I ended up paying for it. Rachel set down her fork. What are you saying? That you've been pretending with me? I'm saying I've spent a lot of years ignoring things I should have noticed. I don't want to do that anymore. She stared at me. There was something in her eyes, something calculating. It passed quickly. She was good at that, I realized. Good at hiding the shifts behind her face. I want to be honest with you, she said, about everything. The pregnancy, what it means for us, the future. I want us to be on the same page. Okay, let's be honest. She took a breath. I know the timing isn't ideal with you leaving your job and everything, but I've been thinking about this, and I really believe we can make it work. I can pick up more hours at the agency, and we can... Where were you last month? I asked. The question came out before I planned it. I watched her face register it. Not shock, but something more controlled. A pause. A recalibration. What do you mean? The week I was in Germany. You sent me that photo from your hotel room. The room with 2 pillows. She blinked. I don't. I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm asking. Cal, I was at a conference. I stayed in the hotel. I sent you that photo because I missed you. And the 2 pillows? I didn't think you'd be counting pillows. That's a really weird thing to notice. Is it? She put her fork down. What's this about? You've been quiet all night. You're asking me about hotel pillows like I'm being interrogated. If you're upset about the bonus or the pregnancy or anything, just tell me to don't do this thing where you circle around it. I'm not circling, I'm asking one question. You worked a conference, you stayed in a hotel, and the room had 2 pillows with indentations from 2 people sleeping on them. That's all I saw. I'm not accusing, I'm just telling you what I noticed. Rachel's jaw tightened. I could see her fighting the urge to get defensive. She was good at controlling herself. I'd never once seen her lose her temper. She stayed calm in arguments. She let the other person get angry first, then she looked reasonable by comparison. I had a colleague from the agency stay in my room one night, she said. A woman, Julia. Her room got flooded from the floor above. IT was late. The hotel was full. She needed somewhere to crash. I let her sleep in the other bed. Julia. Yes. I don't remember you mentioning a Julia. She's from the other office. We don't work together much. I didn't think it was worth mentioning. It was a good story. Even the details worked. The flooded room, the late hour, the colleague from the other office. Everything fit together perfectly. Too perfectly. Like she'd rehearsed it just in case someone asked. But I've been in management long enough to know the difference between a real explanation and a constructed one. Real explanations have rough edges. They have details that don't quite line up, times that don't quite make sense, names you have to think about for a second before you remember them. Rachel's story had none of that. It came out clean and ready. Okay, I said. Julia from the other office. That makes sense. Her expression flickered. She'd expected me to push harder, I realized. She'd prepared for a fight, and I just accepted her story. Are you okay? She asked. Really? I defeated. You don't seem fine. What do you want me to say, Rachel? That I'm happy. I just lost my job, but I just found out I'm going to be a father. And I'm doing the math on how I'm going to support a baby and pay my mortgage and deal with everything that's about to happen. You don't need to worry about whether I'm fine. I'll be fine when I figure out the answers. She reached across the table and took my hand. You're not going to be alone in this. I'm here. Whatever happens, we're going to get through it together. I looked at her. She was so beautiful in that moment. So composed. So completely in control of the image she was presenting. You've been pretending, I thought. Pretending you're in love with me. Pretending this is a partnership. Pretending the baby is mine. And then I felt something I didn't expect. Not anger, not hurt. A strange, cold relief. Because if she was lying, that meant I could walk away. I'd been tangled up in guilt about the pregnancy, about not wanting it, about the weight of responsibility. But if the baby wasn't mine, none of that applied. I could disappear without a trace and never look back. I squeezed her hand. Together, I said. That's what I needed to hear. She stayed for another hour. We ate dinner. We talked about logistics, where we'd live, how we'd split expenses, what kind of parenting we wanted. She was practical and optimistic and everything you'd want from a partner facing an unexpected pregnancy. When she left, she kissed me on the lips and said she loved me. I said it back. The words tasted like cardboard. After she was gone, I went to my laptop and searched for Derek. I had only his first name and the conference photo, but I also had Rachel's LinkedIn account. We were connected. I pulled up her connections list and searched. There were 7 directs. 3 of them worked in events. One of them had attended the same conference. His full name was Derek Vance. He was 37. His profile photo showed him standing on a boat with a fishing pole. He looked like the kind of guy who played golf on weekends and drove a luxury SUV, the kind of guy Rachel had always claimed to hate. I opened his profile. His posts were public. Scrolling through them was easy. One post from 3 months ago, great week at the National Events Conference. Met some incredible people. Can't wait to see where these connections lead. There was a photo attached. Rachel was in it, standing close to him. Not touching, but close. Her hand was on his arm. I zoomed in. The text on the photo was a tag. Rachel Bennett, you're a force of nature. He tagged her publicly. She'd never mentioned it to me. Her Instagram post from that week. The one I'd scrolled past had been careful. IT had cropped out the hand on the A or M. IT had made her look alone. I sat back and looked at the ceiling. The answer was right there in front of me. In pixels, in a public profile, in a photo she'd never shown me. Derek Vance was real. And whatever happened between them at that conference, she'd gone to considerable effort to make sure I didn't see it. My phone buzzed. A text from Leo. Lab confirmed. Kit's on its way. You need a blood sample from her. You have a plan for that? I typed back. I'll figure it out. Another text came through. Also, I heard something about Webb's company. He's having trouble with the German line. It crashed today. He's been calling everyone he knows and nobody can fix it. I stared at the screen. The German line was my line. The one I designed, built, maintained for the last 2 years. The one I documented extensively in a maintenance manual I'd left behind when I walked out. Marcus had my work. He had my notes. He had 3 years of me training his engineers on how to keep it running. But I knew something he didn't know. The line had a hidden dependency, a flaw I'd never documented, never told anyone about. It was a potential failure point I discovered during testing and never fixed because fixing it would have cost time and money, and Marcus had been pushing for faster delivery. If the line had crashed, it meant Marcus's team was trying to fix it without me. And if they'd already called everyone they knew, it meant they'd failed. I smiled in the dark. I couldn't help it. He needed me. After everything, after the threats and the promises and the $3,000, he needed me. And I was going to make him pay. At midnight, I got a second text from the unknown number, the one that had warned me about Marcus's calls. The German line is down. Your old boss is scrambling. He's already offered $50K to anyone who can fix it. Nobody's biting. I didn't respond. I didn't know who this person was and I didn't trust them, but the information was useful. I opened a new document and started planning. Step 1, wait for the paternity test results. Step 2, let Marcus's desperation grow. Step 3, figure out who my anonymous source was and whether they had an agenda. Step 4, decide what I actually wanted. I could go back. I could walk into Marcus's office, name my price, and fix the line. It would be satisfying. The triumphant return, the power reversal, the moment where he admitted he needed me. But that's what he expected. That's what anyone would expect. I was done being expected. I wanted something else, something that would hurt in a different way, something that would make him feel the full weight of what he'd done to me. I just had to figure out what it was